Welcome on my first step ever. On this particularly amazing day, I am very, very excited because today we have a guest speaker who comes from a very noble profession, teaching background. And how did he get into this background? How did he make his career out of this particular noble profession? What really made him take up this profession and what all amazing innovations he's been doing in this profession? We're going to talk about that all through and through. So the times are changing a lot over here, and there's so many ways that one can move forward with their life, and that's why it is becoming even more difficult for people to kind of choose a path. But the question is, do we really have to choose one path, or can we go ahead and do whatever we like, explore in the fields that we like? But we get really confused where to start, and we often leave our own journey, our own path, and start looking at others' paths, that how can we do what other people are doing because they're achieving success. But does that really make you happy? How do you build conviction on your own path, on your own journey, and take actions? This is all about what we discuss on my first step ever, because the first step is definitely the most hardest, and what goes behind that really takes a lot of people down, and a lot of people just give up midway because they don't know it looks exactly that amazing when you do make something out of in your journey. But we really don't hear about those stories. We don't hear about those sleepless nights, those difficult days, or those amazing moments that come by in the journey. So to share that with us in the most candid way in their own personal journey is Mr. Naga Chaithanya, all the way from Hyderabad, India. Naga, welcome on my first step ever.
Thank you, Ishani. It's a pleasure to be on this podcast.
The pleasure is all mine, because I think we're going to discuss something with you with a different worldview altogether. We have had many entrepreneurs, youth leaders, we have CXOs, we have global keynote speakers, and I believe having you in this amazing gamut of guest speakers that I've had, I believe we will be getting a really different perspective when we comes to talking about you, your personal life, your choices, and the kind of challenges that you face to build your first steps. But before I do that, I'm going to give a sneak peek about you to our listeners today. So this week, my friends, we are joined by someone who truly lives by the mantra of learn more, travel more, and teach more. Naga is a lifelong learner, traveler, and teacher who calls himself a paradigmic and a sophophile. If did I pronounce that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
So can you explain what does the word mean before we go ahead?
Oh, this just to get the hook, actually, as we say in the personal branding space in LinkedIn. But basically, it means somebody who loves the learning for the sheer love of learning, and somebody who loves wisdom.
Amazing. So, guys, this is a new word that we have learned. So, Naga is a sophophile with over 22 years of experience across education, startups, consulting, and academia. He's led academic programs, designed cutting edge curricula in entrepreneurship, in financial literacy, advised teenpreneurs, and even served as CPO for the edtech arm of a global super app. So, guys, you're in here for a really, really big insight, not in just terms of his professional career, but how did he build himself as a person who thinks in a certain way, who does things in a certain way. And he has excelled in his profession, in the industry, but explored way beyond. So, from shaping institutional partnerships to mentoring hundreds of educators and students, his career is a powerful blend of practice and scholarship, all driven by curiosity and the joy of learning. So, in this episode, he shares what it really means to reinvent yourself through knowledge, embrace opportunities across industries, and keep growing no matter where life takes you. On that note, if you haven't yet, subscribe to the podcast on YouTube and Spotify, and let's get started. So, Naga, welcome on my first step ever once again. Let's get started with your amazing journey. Please take us back all the way through your childhood. We would love to understand, where did you grow up and how was your childhood like in terms of the kind of mindset of the people were you surround.
Thanks for again asking that very, very, I would say, first level probing question. Because as a student of psychology and as sociology, I strongly believe that nature and nurture matters a lot. So the early formative years and also the impressionable age of whom you are surrendered when you alluding to the peer group and that you have, and also the kind of climate. When you say climate, the both it can be the climate at home or the academic climate in which you are, let's say, drifting, whether it be in college or in school or whatever it is. So I think we are, again, I would say, creatures of, I mean, we are social creatures. So I'm actually, I would say, I mean, born and brought up in South India, particularly in a place called Andhra Pradesh, and a coastal district of Andhra Pradesh called the East Godavari district. So that place again is very much known for STEM, as in we say these days about science, technology, education, sorry, engineering and mathematics. So this entire climate is again more motivated for them. Success is either, I mean, very very binary. It's like, are you a pro in science or not? So that's the kind of initial upbringing that I was having. But I took a very very calculative and, I mean, the word that you used is actually curiosity, which was actually not a filler word for me at that time, because I've been using that word for the last 2 decades, much before curiosity, or in this age of AGI and AI. Everybody talks about the human curiosity element there. But coming back to the childhood that you're talking about, and to keep it very short and crisp, I would say I've taken a calculated and a contrarian stance of not chasing STEM, because for me my heart was more in what you call the liberal arts in the true sense, much before in American education system popularized it. So for me, I'm more of a, I mean, always consumed, and even still now I'm driven by the breadth of knowledge rather than the depth. So I call myself, and whatever I do as a educator, or as a practicing consultant, or as a practicing researcher, but I felt that that should be the way any education should be there. I'm always more excited about subjects like general knowledge, which is outside the curriculum, than let's say the biological sciences or the physical sciences or the mathematics per se. And so that explains my worldview also as to why I did what I have been doing for the last, let's say, 23 years. Because, and as you can see, I've dabbled a lot, and dabbling, which many people say, it looks also outwardly like a lack of focus, but I would say for me, it's more of a calculated and a deliberate practice of doing many things, which again, as I said, if you look at it in one way, maybe my critics might be right to say that I lack focus, or I've dabbled in a lot. But the fact that I'm a, as I said, right, when I say superfile, I really meant it where I love wisdom, which again is a much more distilled way of things which comes from mere information or analytics to again leading to the actionable insight. So very very long term, a very very what you say, distilled insights is what education should took out, rather than that, prepping up or doing a test prep in maths and gaming an IIT system, or let's say NEET system. I mean, I'm nothing against that. We require deep generalists as specialists as well. But I for one felt that for the kind of a background that you're coming from, and just to again close this question at this point, that South India, which is predominantly known for STEM, so I've been an outlier in that sense, because I've always been enamored and fascinated by social sciences. And when I say social sciences, that itself is a huge spectrum. Whether it is might be performing arts, or even humanities, or that. But again, social sciences is, let's say, I would say, more of applied part of, let's say, humanities. So I'm more driven by, as I said, right. What I get excited is about picking up a newspaper and reading about 100 things in the society, from the last page of sports to the first page of headlines to the business to the crime to, there's so many things. So for me, I would say, for me the fun really happened of learning more from newspapers than the curriculum actually. Yeah, that's, I think, would is my viewpoint. Yeah.
It's interesting to take a deep dive into what really excites you, Naga. How did they, come about that thought process? Why do they like that thing? Or how did they uncover that, oh, this is what I'm interested in? Although education is like one of the most pivotal thing, but there are, set pathways to, gain education. But you have done it differently. And that makes this particular conversation so relevant and apt for our audience and listeners today journey. So let's trace our steps back to your childhood. Let's say, like in your early teens, as you mentioned, you were already surrounded by this particular environment where everyone was pro STEM, and that's all that everyone spoke about. And you were also already, in that ocean of STEM. So obviously, you were consuming a lot about that, and that was all that you were thinking. But if you can go back to your teenage days and maybe reflect now and think of yourself as a teenager, how do you see Naga at that point in time? Was he obedient? Was he rebellious? Or was he someone who was still trying to, understand what what is happening around himself, or were you like very focused? I would love to understand that about you as a little boy.
Thanks again for talking about I mean, to asking me to reflect on a personal thing. I don't know really to what extent it might be relevant to the audience, but just to summarize and I would say paraphrase, I would say before even me doing this digital rebranding or being a full-time consultant, particularly an edtech consulting at that, I used to have this on my life view or my viewpoint, not necessarily only professional view, because I feel that professional life is only just part of the real life that we lead actually, and there cannot be actually a dissonance between professional and personal ethos and I would say, because as I said, right, profession is just one part of the concentric circle that we have in the larger scheme thing called life. So what I would say is I'm more of a pirate rather than a captain. So that's my viewpoint where because a pirate has a more adventurous life. Again, adventure defines is defined for the very subjective definition of adventure. So for me I would say it's more adventurous to live a life as a pirate rather than a first rate and a first class captain. So what I meant there is that because that's also used to be what I think Steve Jobs quote, which again, or one of his, I would say, ethos that he would have carried, where he says, "Why to be a ship captain when you can be a pirate?" What again is again is a streak of entrepreneurship, where it's like one part of his, of course, is risk taking, because only when you say take a risk, you will again the payoffs will be again the kind of massive payoffs that you're talking about. More so in entrepreneurship, particularly in business entrepreneurship. So what I'm trying to talk about here is when I say that as a childhood, what I believed was that when you say everybody's going the STEM way, I was the only one who actually took a conscious step not to chase either maths or physics or chemistry or for that matter biology, and without even knowing where I'm going to end up, whether it be in commerce or communication or design. Indian
Absolutely.
education has changed a lot and changing for good actually, in the sense so the tunnel view is what really is, for me I felt is very limiting. I always believe that one should be more open for more questioning, more, let's say, questioning as in like trying to be a rebel or more as an iconoclast kind of a thing, but always to take bets where nobody else is taking, because I felt that the payoffs will be massive. So that's what made me. But yeah, sometimes again they also backfire, because when you look at stability, so at 45, what I can say is that yeah, there is a price to pay when you again take different bets, whether it's with career or with your what do you call, let's say for example the kind of you alluded to nobility, and I understand. See, you want me to talk about my childhood, but I felt that these are all so interconnected. But what the point I'm trying to make here again, and connecting the dots would be, you said that that the teaching profession is very noble in nature, which I felt is like what literally being a teacher means. It's a mindset where you need to really update yourself. So when I said that teaching is not meant for everyone, I feel parenting and teaching is, again, I learn more through parenting than what the, let's say, the good or a clinical feedback that you get from the students, because as you know, the feedback is always superficial, doctored, and it's not really realistic and raw in one sense. But yeah, coming back to the question that you asked as to why I did what I did, as I said, maybe it's my innate nature to be curious, which is what driven me in terms of all the different jumps that I did, be it from public policy at my I mean, just after my after my graduation, I started my career as a researcher, more as a desk researcher for economics and public policy there. Then again, I dabbled in teaching, and I've been a very bad teacher in my first 10 years, because again I had this sense of monopolizing the talk space and being a very bad listener, and more importantly, trying to feel that knowledge is the be all and end all, rather than trying to understand the listener or the teacher student's point of view. So suddenly again, maybe that's how we learn, through practice and deliberation and deliberate practice of teaching. That so again, teaching again was not naturally came. It's again an, I would say, an happy accident from starting as my early career as a public policy researcher. But there again, I thought national economic planning, which again is a very, very, I would say abstract, but when compared with business economics or microeconomics, which is very, very transactional, but it's short term. Macroeconomics and national economic planning is much more long term, and the kind of the rigor and also the skimming which you do in microeconomics is not there in macro. So that's what made me and realize that one should always be long term in orientation. Now that can be for many aspects of management life. Be it as a manager, you need to have a long term view. As a politician, you need to have a long term view. As a teacher, because as I said, right, the transformation, when you say the change is not very short term, I mean very noticeable. When you talk about, let's say, a doctor again treating a patient, here in this case, when you talk about teaching, so the fruits will bear the result only after a long time. But you should be, as a teacher, knows that although the short term interventions that you took might be causing immediate pain, but if it is in the greater good and the larger good, that it needs to be done. So as a teacher, you need to have that kind of orientation. So be it again when in terms of investing yourself through continuing professional development, or being certain times being harsh with students for their own benefit. So there are again, we can uncode it or uncover it in different places, but essentially what I'm trying to tell is that a long term view in addition to the broad based view, these are two layers I would like to submit as of now at this point of time, that India needs, most importantly, in all those sectors, be it in education, health, or wellness, fitness, where these are not like entertainment or some other fancy and glamorous sectors, like even for that matter startup India as a spotlight that media gets. So for me, I feel that the change is always slow, and the change is always again visible only in the long run. So when you say slow and long run, these are again intertwined. So there are not going to be any magic bullets or any, let's say, radical and what do you call, very heroic moves. When you talk about some things like whether, let's say, urban transformation or something like building ports or building roads, that might look very fancy and very rosy. But education, I would say again, the closest to my heart is again, of course, the sector I love the most is, of course, education. And in the current avatar, be it edtech or higher ed or skill development, call it by whatever name. Education, I think, is what drives a nation. And unfortunately, in India, other than we celebrating teachers on Teachers' Day, because you alluded to that word called nobility, which is what really I felt is one of the most important things that a nation should have, like the way we respect and give the due. Let's say we need to give to, let's say, army professionals. So I think teachers are no less than army professionals. But the simple fact that what they do is very consistent, what they do is very silent, what they do is very long term. And in fact, if they don't do their job, the damage will be more bigger than the other professions. Again, not to say that other professions are less important, but I feel again, be it at a kindergarten teacher to the kind of high school teacher to the college faculty to the university professor. I mean, you look at any problem that India is having, I think all can be solved if we are true to education. That's I would say. And one last thing I would say, again, coming back to the question that you asked, would be that I've been again fortunate enough and lucky enough, because I would again say always that leaving aside, let's say, maybe the financial success that might not come to me, which again is a very chosen, and I'm fine with it. I'm actually always lucky to get the right books, the right mentors, at the right time. So it's not that I would say whatever I formed is, let's say, unilaterally right or whatever, but I've been again blessed with some of the best faculty when I had my education in a not so popular place. Institute right now more known for controversies than good things. But when I was there at the time, I was being, I would say, my defining moment, and one thing I would really cherish, and the lucky accident that happened in my undergraduate education is being taught by some of the best, I would say, 100 plus professors of 70 different subjects way back in 1999 to 2002, much before all these NEP 2020 and all these plethora of subjects which you're talking about. So I was lucky enough to get taught by best of the faculty from, let's say, just to give you one example and give you some takeaways. let's say, the best of foreign trade is taught by IFT professors. The best of welfare economics is taught by Delhi School of Economics professors. The best of, let's say, the business economics is taught by, again, the faculty of business economics in University of Delhi. So the best of marketing again is taught by faculty of management studies in Delhi. So likewise, we have been taught 72 different subjects as esoteric and as unlikely for a manager to be taught at a BBA level, like subjects like engineering drawing, subjects like French. I'm talking again way back in 99 to 2002. So we have been even exposed to introduction to literature, introduction to performing arts, again, the whole essence of it. I mean, people might say it might be a khichdi kind of approach where, what we say, the cafeteria approach where we can consume as much as we can, but I mean, the long story short, I would say is that the more you get exposed to in terms of different strands of, I wouldn't say intellectuals, but again, academicians per se, because not all academicians need to be intellectuals, but the more is the lateral surface area that you can have in terms of your what do you call absorption capacity, and also the listening habit that you have. Most importantly, when I say listening, for me again, listening is, for me it's more of reading. So and one thing I would love to submit to all the listeners, be it whatever it would be, because again, otherwise it is just of my personal anecdotes or my personal story, but I'm trying to be as utilitarian as possible to the listeners. I would only submit that nothing, I mean, if I were to capture what I learned from my 24 years of working in different sectors is nothing can stop any person from achieving whatever he or she chooses, as long as he doesn't give up the habit of reading, which again primarily stems from that, let's say, big ocean called curiosity. Because we can change technologies, we can change industries, we can change countries. So for me, it's completely context agnostic, because if you know the art of mastering the context, that is again comes through either through reading or listening. So when I say listening, it can be through a lecture or a podcast or watching a documentary on Netflix, or there are dime a dozen ways of learning, because that's what, again, thankfully, in the post-internet revolution and the current AI revolution that we are living. So it's not about so much about content, but you need to have that patience and drive to learn. And that's where I felt learning to learn would be a major meta skill. And what I would submit to, whether it's the first step ever or the second step or the third step, whatever might be the, what do you call, the life cycle that we might be in, one thing I would love to submit to is that nothing replaces the sheer power of continual reading and continual listening. I'll take a pause at that. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Naga, for taking us through your professional endeavors. I love that how you have taken us through your early childhood towards your eagerness, your curiosity, and your proactiveness to choose the kind of profession that you're in, going against all the odds, kind of having the fear of a bit of an unstable and uncertain financial future, as people say, yet listening to your inner voice and going ahead, strong knowledge and opinion about how things are and how things should be, in a different ways when it comes to education and about India as well. Overall, it's really nice to kind of talk to a human who has their own opinion, who's well read, and they bring a different kind of a perspective about things, that that how we can better it, or if not better, how we can do it in a better way, coexisting with what's happening right now. So it's really interesting to see how you also you had a happy accident becoming a teacher and your own learnings. Thank you so much for very candidly sharing that what you felt in the initial decades of you being as a teacher, and what really makes a teacher. It's not for everyone, and what really makes a good teacher. So thank you so much for taking us through your entire gamut of professional experience so far, your opinions. I'm going to kind of change a little bit of a lens over here while I ask you a few questions, because I see a range of very, very big, a pool of experience that you have gathered. And I want to ask you a few questions regarding that. And just to put things in context for our global audience over here, there are people watching and listening us from all across the globe, be it in the early 20s or mid 30s or 40s, who are maybe starting a second innings. I'm sure they are seeing that kind of the energy that you bring, the infectious energy when you speak about it, it shows your passion in the profession that you're in, and that you're fearless with what you do. So I want to kind of delve a little into your thought process, because when this is what kind of really helps our listeners, you take things out of the context of, in terms of putting things in their context, because the thought process, be it in any profession, whoever is, whatever they're doing in life, whatever they are doing, the thought process is something that can be taken and applied by different people at a different part of the world in their different professions. So I think that really helps them. So given this amazing experience that you had, the kind of confidence that you had from the very beginning, you still went ahead with what you felt was right. These are the qualities that really make someone stand out, because they're being authentic. And that's what I think people who are listening to us would really benefit from building. Because if they are able to be authentic, if they are fearful but they still take up what they really want to do, they have the kind of confidence that you have shown in your journey, that even they can build conviction in what they want to do. So from that perspective, I like to ask a few questions over here from your own journey. My very first question to you was that I'm going to ask you a series of few questions, so we can help our listeners, understand that why you did what you did, and how come you have this, solid mindset of going ahead with what you do. The first question is, when things were going certain way in the society in terms of education, as you mentioned early on, how did you get the confidence of not pursuing what everyone was doing at that point in time? Was there a voice inside you, or were you inspired by someone, or what was it? Or was there a particular person in your life early on who showed you the way that follow your path? How did you get that confidence to listen to your own voice?
Okay, that's again a very deeply profound and personal question, and that's in fact again making me again reflect and rather deeply introspect as to what made me do what I did. Frankly, I would say, I mean, I wish I know the answer, because I'll be bluffing in case I said that, to sound very cosmetic and very very superficial, to know that I have known everything all throughout. Actually, till now, in fact, I would be very honest with your listeners and with you that there is no easy way out, because I mean, for the kind of because again, I know I'm digressing a little, but I again also want to submit to the all the listeners that what we are actually is actually again is a highly, if you were to, let's say, mathematically speaking, it's a function of whom we are born to, whom we are working, or let's say had the good fortune of learning. I mean, going to the college, or your colleagues or whatever.
Absolutely,
So,
yes.
in addition to the inside family, it's the outside that circle of influence that you have, and most importantly, of course, the kind of the climate that, in fact, whether it's a political climate, what time you are being part of, because again, as a student of
Right.
economic history, I would say we give so much importance to about, and the podcasts also make us narrowly define and attribute. I would say it's an attribution errors that we might come to, because it's not as easy as we look out to be.
Absolutely.
Because I would say more than the physical sciences, the social sciences, and the life per se is a much more complex phenomena, and there are no easy answers. Now, coming back to the question that you asked, I wish I know the answer, but frankly, all throughout, and in fact more so in the last 5 years of mummy hustling. When I say hustle, I really meant it, because nobody, I mean, at least the ones that I know, the so-called consultants, independent consultants, are having it easy for the kind of, the economic climate that we are living in. Whether it might be true for Australia, or for a Europe, or a stagnant US, or the worrisome Middle East, or the ever changing China, or the Indian economies. So what I want to tell is that confidence, I would say, I mean, I never know that I am exuding so much confidence, but inside I know that things are not as clear as, let's say, when I try to say something in the post facto, meaning once the event gets over. So so when I said happy accidents, some accidents are also not happy in the way, that the end result we are envisaging out to be turned out to be. For example, when I said, right, there are severe financial pitfalls, there are a lot of societal pressures when you take those bets. For example, when everybody is going that STEM way, how can you choose a profession which is not that economically lucrative?
Yes.
Or
And
when everybody is getting married at a certain age, or
yes.
going that way, or raising kids in a certain way, how can you again hold some viewpoint? So coming back to that thing, there's no easy answer, and till now I have not mastered it. And every time it's that I just only make it very simple, that I again, and also I'm digressing a bit, but I thought maybe the quote of Mark Twain might again put this in a context and more in a very very intelligible way for your audience. That would be that, the best defining quote, because I'm a great fan of Mark Twain, because I never encountered such a witty and a very very wise author, and in a very very Americanish way talks about so many things about life. So Mark Twain, I mean, one of his uncredited, or I would say least known quote says that, what is the secret of a happy life? It is actually great books, great family, and he says it is as a sleepy conscience. But I would again just tweak on it, and I would say a peaceful life. And when I say happy life, where you are true to yourself, because you alluded to authenticity in this age of social media posts, and more you read about anything, you start questioning your own beliefs, and it's not as easy as it used to be. Let's say in the pre-social media is, at least for me. So what I would trying to submit here is that you just need to listen to the inner voice. Now, how that inner voice would come, I really have not got that eureka moment where, let's say, I can pinpoint to one particular event. But for me, what I learned from my dad, particularly a very, very, very wise guy whose wisdom I couldn't decode when I was very young, and I could only know his profound and his great wisdom and his long-term orientation only after he passed away. And when I became again a serious dad and having my own parenting challenges, so he was the one who influenced about, let's say, basic long-term look. When I say long-term thinking, so for example, one way in which the whole thing, let's say, when you talk about careers, right? So I'm just want to even talk about, even for that matter, careers, even for your life in this age of EMI and hyper over expensive living, that everybody is getting more mad about the Instagramification kind of a thing. If you don't save, because saving again is a basic frugal living, or even for that matter, the kind of savings ethos that, let's say, a typical South Indian family used to have 20 years down, I mean, back, and right now how it is getting degraded, which is in fact is the cause of so many societal evils actually, where we are not saving enough, nor we're not able to even distinguish the basic financial literacy of what is a right expenditure and what is a wrong expenditure. So that
Right.
has far bigger repercussions. So
Right.
what I'm trying to again tell there is that, because as I said, right, life is so complicated, so there is no easy answers. But there are certain things which again I picked up from my parents, particularly from my dad, particularly this long-term orientation and this solid, what do you call, confidence, because he's a lawyer, and but he chose to be an agriculturist because he again felt that being an agriculturalist makes him happy, and he has not settled for that urban or urban centric lifestyle that we all right now are going so much gaga over. So he has his, what Elon Musk talks about, fundamentals and first principles thinking. But I
Yeah.
would say many many people are Elon Musks in their own right in South India way back in 1980s to 2000s actually. Maybe Elon Musk is a great marketeer, so he popularized so-called first principles thinking. But I felt we Indians have been using it for ages. So coming back to that question that you asked, there is no certain pinpoint moment or a eureka moment for me, but I picked up a lot from my dad. And secondly, what I learned from my mom is to be very very kind, and trying to again think again about more empathetic, and more than my wife, sorry, my dad and my mom. Currently I'm, in fact, I was like very very extremely fortunate, I would say, in these days of so many marital crisis and problems, that I'm blessed with a very very caring and highly empathetic wife, who again has supported me for whatever that I've been doing in the
Very nice
post
to
I mean,
hear.
so I would, again, the long story short would be that for all the people who are in their early ages, I think who is whom you're going to get as a spouse is actually going to make a big big difference to the whole lifestyle, to the whole life philosophy and the life view, and where you will end up actually. And I am
Amazing.
not
Yeah.
trying to be here very spiritual or very karmic here, but what I want to tell is that we again. And coming back, and just I'll close it with this attribution error that we do. I again don't know who it is, but I think it is the ex Microsoft CEO, Mr. Ravi Venkatesan, who himself runs a lot many podcasts and also is an author himself, who talks about, I think there are six variables in life which again decides how happy we are, irrespective of whether you're an artist, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a philosopher, or whatever the kind of let's say life circus that we might be busy playing our roles. So one of them is I mean, the lottery, the genetic lottery that we have, whom we are born to, the first school and the first job that you're going to take, the first boss of yours, of course, your spouse. So I missed the other two parts, but these are so simple, but we don't even pay the due importance that it has. So that's what I would say. And for me, the living mantra would be that it is more about the kind of good books. When I say good books, I mean, meaning the good learning resources and the good family, which includes both your family as well as your the circle, the close circle, whether it is your colleagues or the friends or whatever, that even the community members that you are part of the place where your house is. So these are all going to make a big difference to the kind of happiness, the inner happiness, and also the kind of peaceful, the inner peace that you're looking at. Because for me, that's what I think is the primary overriding and the whole optimization problem should look at, rather than the lens of career success, or how much in the money balance, or where you have gone to your exotic location. Again, I'm not going trying to be here very philosophically simple or naive here, but I felt that if you really do what you want to do, you will have more satisfaction. Now that can be for a person who's going for a second hustle, or for a third hustle, or for that matter even trying to see what he should do, particularly the interns and the other folks.
Amazing. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Correct.
again, I
So
have
if
this
I
nasty
may,
habit of.
I think from what I, hello,
Yeah.
hello,
No, I'm sorry. What I was trying to tell is I
hello.
have this.
Sorry,
Am I audible?
yes, sorry. I think you're just maybe the internet is not good at on my end. You're a bit kind of cracking up. I can hear you now.
Okay. No, no. What I was trying to
Can you
say.
hear
Sorry
me?
to. Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you. I can hear you.
Amazing. So thank you so much, Naga, for all right. Okay. Thank you so much, Naga, for sharing all that with us. I think from what I have understood while you were sharing your thoughts, but what I've seen is that although you said that you don't know where the confidence really stems from, but from what I hear, it is your parents who probably led by example, or you follow your heart. You are not just you're just not blindly following what people are doing in the society and the rules set the society. And I think from what I can hear is that's how you saw your father doing. He did what he loved, but probably he may not have preached you that, but maybe you took that up as he showed you the way ahead. And I like the fact that when you mentioned about your mother, that what you learned from her and that you've imbibed that, and somewhere we don't really realize, that, oh, this is where this kind of nature from in me comes from. When you sit back and you realize, because you've seen that uh, people in your surroundings kind of doing that for the longest time period of their time, and you see that how they live, that kind of imbibes in you. And also a very amazing thing that you, and very sweet, I would say a nice thing that you mentioned about your life partner, that how by waiting for the right person and not just kind of blindly going and getting married just because it is the age, you found the right person and you speak so highly of her, which shows that the great kind of camaraderie that both of you share, but also as individuals how you help support and grow. You both grow as a couple together. That also kind of puts the perspective in place, as you mentioned very early on in your discussion, that you've somehow met the right mentors, met the right people, and I think they do make the part of your family who are helping you, supporting you in every way, become more of who you are. And given on that note that we have had this amazing time to be with you today over here, it's such a pleasure to, kind of talk to a unique personality like yourself who's so authentic, who does what he thinks is, you know, is good to, it's something that aligns with himself and that you can bring value. I love that fact that you've done that every way down in your life, even it's a professional life or even it's a personal life choices. You have just gone there and did what you felt right, and you're passionate about the things that you still talk about, you speak about, you have different ways of thinking, and then you bring that to the table. Just want to kind of ask you one last question, and as we kind of come to close of this particular podcast, we're going to wrap up soon. But there's something that really intrigues me in your journey that you have shared, at least shared with us so far, is that you mentioned that the first decade of your teaching was a happy accident, but in the first decade itself, you realize that why it may not be suited or how you can change certain things in your style so that you can become a teacher. How did that realization really come about? If you can probably share that with us, maybe an incident or maybe something that happened that made you realize, and how did you really work on it? Because I think that was so powerful. It's not often that, we kind of sit back and kind of reflect on, hey, what's not working out with us? Why is this not right? And have that courage to own up to it and then work towards it and then become really good at it. So, if you can share that with us before we take your leave today.
So thank you for again making me reflect on that. And if you look there, and very, very surprisingly, and that's what I felt that many often, more so after reading so many books on psychology, I can even vouch for it, is that we have what are called as blind spots. And humans that we are, we very, very unknowingly and very comfortably end up not paying attention to what exactly are the unknown unknowns. Now, what I when I say blind spot or those words, like not to just talk about in those fancy phrases or something, but in fact, when I see at 45, because I had the good fortune of starting my career at 21, and I have been again, as I said, been a faculty at a very young age, without again not getting, let's say, trained in adult psychology or let's say learner behavior and all that books that you again keep on reading again out of your own passion rather than as part of curriculum. So what I did that the worst thing which I feel still I feel ashamed is that again it's not that I mastered that, but right now because still I think I don't listen enough. That's my biggest problem, as my wife keeps on telling. Because for me, as I said, right, the best mirrors that you have is your family, because they give you the most unfiltered, and so you should be again humble enough and also smart enough to pick it up, and also wise enough to discount that feedback that they're giving. So, and coming back to the question, is that it took me 10 long years to understand, and I feel ashamed, because 10 years is too long time for anyone to realize that you have been very rigid and you have been blind and you have your own world view, that if you teach too much and you give them 10 subjects and you think that you are a great faculty, the way you think and you project, the students are not going to accept it. It's as simple as you need to understand whom you are actually teaching, what they want, what is it that they have not known, or what is it that they are struggling. Because what I did, the terrible mistake, as then as I said, till now maybe even I'd be doing unknowingly, but knowingly I tried to stop it, is that it's never about the teacher. It's always about the learner. And when I say student, again, the teacher student, because of this power distance, I feel even that it is very bad in our culture, because unlike the Western culture where everybody comes as an equal, which is what I think we should imitate and take the best from the Western culture, would be that informality, the kind of that the faculty as the so-called faculty is just nothing but somebody who has lived that life before you, and maybe again he should also be humble enough to know that he should not impose and what do you call how do I say, bulldoze his view. Now, what I did that mistake was again that thinking that teaching more will give me grade. I'm just only trying to show off myself. Actually, the moment I realized that, then I understood how what a bad teacher I am and what a disservice I am doing. Because the idea is not to show that you have read 10 books. The idea is even if the other student doesn't even know 2 books, that's fine. But you trying to help him better than what he is yesterday is, I think, is the true mark of a teacher. I mean, at least again, I'm saying this might be too narrow way, but what I learned that hard way, and what I felt bad is that I am so dumb that it took me 10 years to even realize that fact as to what kind of bad role modeling that I'm doing as a teacher. That's one. And as to what is it that any point, I would not say, but actually more than those were the days where we used to get the feedback through Excel sheets, where people used to game that where. I mean, among all my faculty pool, we used to be very competitive. We all want to be around 4.5 out of that 5. So what was driving for the first 10 years is just how I'll be, get that the students who are marking are giving me more than 4.5 so that I get that best faculty award or blah, 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 and all that. Again, all where my role and it's all about me, myself kind of a thing. But in some of the informal interactions, particularly, in fact, I still know that lady Priyanka. So she was actually very, I would say, she's not in sweet. She's actually the best teacher I have seen. I would say it's a role reversal because she actually told what wrong I am doing in the most non-threatening and most receptive way that I could know, because she understood what's my problem. She knows what my psychology is, so she literally flipped the thing where she taught me that what I am doing and made me see my blind spot. So I would again say that that informal interaction with my student. When I would say right, student is a too tall because she taught me more. So I would always see a class as a co-participants, because I really, not to say superficially I want to sound it as a humble or something, but I felt that, see, for example, this podcast made me reflect so much. So I learned more than, let's say, what, as much as, let's say, if any person can pick up something from the book I recommended or the quote that I said or anything. So for me, everything in life is actually a dialogue, and it's all about how smart you are actually to pick up and reflect and take that, and of course also practice it. So long story short, it's that episodic encounter with one of my co-participants who made me realize the mistake that I made, that I'm trying to show off when I'm trying to, whereas I'm supposed to help them. So that's what I think is my eureka moment of being aware of my blind spot.
Wow, Naga, I think firstly, kudos to Priyanka, who has kind of, she stood up and in a way that was very, very non confrontational, as you said, and in a way that made you feel that she's really trying to help you so that for your own benefit. And that also helped you kind of work on yourself. But I think even more, I would say, I would really give credit to you because it's not easy to kind of sit with yourself and say, oh shit, yes, I really did make some mistake. So I
No,
think
that's a very
it's
bad mistake.
definitely
That's a very bad public mistake. It's
so
a glaring, I would say, blunder.
yeah, yeah, but I think what you did is a great example for everyone out there, the youth or the people who are, young at heart and even who are kind of, wanting to kind of rebuild their life. If they felt that they have done a huge mistake in their life and it has taken a bit of years of their, I think is a great example set by Naga that when someone really sits you down, or if you have that awareness and if you found that maybe you were kind of doing something which was not well in your, which is not aligned with what you're trying to do, and maybe you have done sort of a mistake or you've had a failure, it's always nice to kind of sit back and improve on that, accept it, acceptance is the first step, and then build on that. We all are humans, we all make mistakes, but this is life. If you're able to kind of learn from it and grow from it, you have only gained out of that mistake of yours. Then that mistake is actually gold for you, because if you would have not learned from it, you would have not become the amazing person that you are today. So thank you so much, Naga, for being so candid, open. I love, as I said, I think this is the third time I'm saying in a conversation that I love your passion for your profession. I love that how willingly open you are to learn, to make mistakes, you learn, you grow, and there's no shoulds or straight formula that has been actually put by society that you follow. You create your own, and you are kind of, you are like how they say, that art in making, your life in making. And I'm very excited to see where you take your profession, your future, you as a person. It would be really amazing to see you grow from even more from here. So thank you so much for being on my first step ever podcast. It has been so great chatting with you, uncovering, understanding your psychology, your thought process, that how you had the conviction to do what you wanted, but did not listen to other voices, or even if they did pressurize you or where you did go wrong, you still stepped up for your own benefit and for your profession. So thank you so much. And I always request my guest speakers to leave our listeners with a quote or a saying that they really resonate with.
Okay. Thank you so much again. It's as much, let's say, you liked doing this. In fact, I really loved reflecting, and you made me ask so many deeply personal and very, very subjective questions, which again make even maybe to even think whether I am in the right path or not. But thanks for this whole episode. And just to close the things, I only just would say that no, again, going back to Mark Twain, the best way to cheer yourself up is to cheer for others. So what I again felt is that whether it is teaching, consulting, whatever again the line, including let's say you can be a doctor, you can be a, for example, a media planner, it can be anything. If you were to really cheer up yourself, I think you need to cheer for others because again. Because at the end of the day, it's again that we are all human and social animals actually. So I believe in that sense and that the sense of cheering and that sense of helping each other. That's one thing. And the book that really I would submit to all your listeners, leaving aside all the personal anecdotes and all, because this I would say is a very practical and utilitarian book that I felt that literally everybody should read it for the sheer fact that this book is one of the most, I mean, it's not an underrated, it's already talked, but still is not getting the due that it gets in a country like India, particularly maybe leaving aside the Western economies. That book is actually a book called Range. So this book talks about why we need to be very, very broad based in our approach towards anything in life. So the range, as the thing talks about, the lower limit and the upper limit. So that's a range. It's written by a very, very famous author called David Epstein.
Amazing. Thank you so much for wrapping up this episode on that amazing note. That definitely goes in my list of books, reading books. So that sounds very, very interesting. The concept, the premise itself. Thank you so much, Naga, for being on my first step ever and
Thank you,
sharing
Shami. Thank you.
part of your life, your philosophy, your thoughts, and your actionable steps that you have taken, because that really helps our listeners all across the globe, wherever they are in the phase of life. These conversations, something somewhere really clicks for someone, and it really helps them kind of take the next step. So it is really, really valued time over here. Thank you so much for your time and everything that you have shared. It definitely is not going to go waste. It's going to be of some help to someone who's listening or watching us today. If you have been stuck with us through here, I know that you have enjoyed, you have learned something out of Naga Chaitanya's journey. And as he mentioned, I will be leaving a link about him. So connect with him if there's thoughts and if his mindset really kind of intrigues you and you would like to make some amazing connection with him. So thank you all my listeners, and as I always say, start believing in yourself and keep believing in yourself. See you until next. Please do give ratings and please do write your comments, and you can directly reach out to me on my first step ever _IN. That's my Instagram handle. A little about myself. I have always loved performing on stage, acting, speaking, and just emoting myself. So I use these mediums different ways so that I can connect with people, help them, empower them, infotain them, which is to inform them and entertain them. If you would like to collaborate for any opportunities, more than welcome to connect with me on my Instagram handle. Thank you.